this. Yes, I want to call the meeting to order at 7:06 p.m. Pardon me. Can you hear me? I'm calling the meeting tonight to order at 7:06. And of course, the meeting was posted pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Given that the Architecture Review Committee of San Antonio will conduct a meeting on Wednesday tonight at 7 p.m. And I'm calling the meeting to order. I'm going to move to the citizens to be heard. The Architecture Review Committee welcomes citizens to be heard. If you wish to speak, you must follow these guidelines. Has anyone signed up to speak other than the applicant?
No, sir.
Okay. The consent agenda. The consent agenda are self-explanatory by the Architecture Review Committee or have been previously discussed and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a committee member so requests. The consent agenda is for consideration by the Architecture Review Committee only and not subject to public discussion. Do I call a motion for approval of the previous meeting minutes from anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve last minutes.
I know you're new, but does somebody just want to second the motion? Okay, are there any comments at all regarding the previous minutes? If not, the minutes are approved. Okay. Tonight we're going to have as our first item on the agenda a discussion and possible action on an application submitted by Walk-In Inc. 6018 West Avenue. I won't go to the, all right, CB 5006B block lot 4, HEB Castle Hills subdivision, Castle Hills CB 150 for the proposed substantial exterior renovation of a suite on an existing strip mall. I believe it would be in order now for the applicant to present.
Chairman, can you open the public meeting first? We have to have the public hearing first.
Okay. I will act as the next item is to open the public hearing.
And can you announce the time, sir?
The time is 7:09. All right. Can we move on to the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Are you the applicant? Would you like to step up, introduce yourself at the podium and make your presentation?
Hi there, my name is Eric Lee and I'm one of the owners for the Walk-In Asian cuisine restaurants that we operate here in San Antonio, Texas. I've only brought some sample boards to demonstrate some of the either materials or colors that we plan on using that's located in the packets that you guys have in front of you.
Have you all had a chance to it's in that packet, the other packet. They have drawings within those that shows their floor plan, shows the existing elevation and the proposed new storefront elevation, several renderings to illustrate it. And if you'd like to just hand us those sample boards, we'll just kind of browse through those. You don't have a slide presentation or anything like that.
These are kind of heavy.
Okay. I'm sorry. We'll try and treat them delicately. All right. You want to just illustrate each of these items?
So this is the stucco material that we are proposing for
the light one.
the light one. And the fence around
Okay,
the perimeter would be with this type of material with either wood or wood-like. And the type of stain similar to it.
what is the black again?
They're just colors on the rendering.
Okay,
I think it's
like
above
the,
the,
like the fascia on,
Yes.
on that other building.
Correct.
Accessory building. And the gray, where does the gray go?
I believe the gray goes along in the middle of the proposed building that we have, or space.
Okay,
And the yellow is existing.
let me see, that's good. I think we've got an idea. Ben, you've done a very impressive job with your presentation here. Do you have any other comments to make?
I do not at this time.
Okay. I would like to close the public hearing at 7:12 and would like to open up discussion for any members of our committee regarding the design.
I think, Chairman, we need a motion to open up for discussion.
Okay, anyone make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to open up the.
Second? Second?
Seconded.
Okay. Now, does anyone on the committee have any comments or questions? I have a few, but I'd like the committee members to first ask any questions pertinent.
The only question I've got, usually air conditionings and all that, we try to make sure we hide. Is everything staying hidden up there on the existing building?
Yes, it's only used for utilities, water softener, water heater.
No, I'm talking about on the roof, your
Ah,
so everything staying hidden, on top of the roof, you kept the facade even on the side? to cover
Yes,
up?
sir. I think we're reusing some of the HVAC units that's currently on top of the roof structure. Obviously, we're going to be adding exhaust fans. They should not be too visible or visible to the ground level.
Okay,
Anything else?
that's all I have right now.
I wanted to ask you if
Mhm.
the accessory building is going to have anything on the roof.
I don't believe so.
Because any kind of mechanical equipment at all is supposed to be hidden from view. So if you did plan to put exhaust fans or any kind of air conditioning equipment on the roof of that building, you would have to screen it. And right now, the way the design appears, it's not screened. It's just a flat roof.
There are no mechanical or HVAC units that's going to be inside that room. It's mainly going to be for storage and just to hold stuff.
And then one other question is the center itself going to be remodeled? In other words, the portion in front of your restaurant, is that going to be the mansard roof? Is that going to be repainted, or is there going to be any changes to the front elevation of the existing center?
To the actual center, no.
So none in front of your restaurant either?
No, we are still working with the landlord as far as if there's going to be any changes that they are planning on making with the facade of the actual center itself, but we're not proposing any significant changes to the facade of the center.
Okay, any other comments? Well, I knew y'all are uncertain of some of these things, but I would say that you've done a really good job. The accessory building and this drive-through and all the landscaping and the fencing and all are very, very well done. And and appear to be of high quality. I wish the whole center would take your cue and improve the appearance of the whole shopping center. It would really be a big boon for the city if we could do something of that nature. I don't have anything else. I guess I would call for a motion for someone to approve the applicant's. And by the way, I want to apologize for this delay. With the COVID season and businesses, it was just unfortunate that we had to postpone last month. I know you're eager to get going, so I hope we can have a consensus tonight. Is there a motion to approve the applicants?
I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Second. All in favor, raise their hand. Unanimous approval.
Recommendation for city council next Tuesday night.
Okay, it's approved by our architectural review committee. We now have to present it to city council for their approval. And again, I think you've done a very good job. There's not much else. The site is what it is, and the drainage is what it is. So we're just really addressing your building and screening equipment, and you've screened your dumpster and everything in the back. So you've done a very good job. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay. Before we go to the next agenda item, I'd like to address, since it's just us, I'd like to address Jason and Leslie about the mission of the Architecture Review Committee, because y'all are kind of green and need to probably get an understanding. Even though I'm an architect, I'm not. The committee is not formed to pass judgment generally on the design of a project. We just go by a set of rules and regulations, and I don't know if the city gave them to you, but there's normally a checklist of items that we usually ask applicants regarding their proposals, and as they present them, the screening of mechanical equipment is very, very important. That be it a dumpster or rooftop equipment, things of that nature. If it's a new site, we're going to want to address, how they're planning to do drainage on the site, and and let them submit whatever form of landscaping they may want to do. We're really not expected to approve the materials or the color of the building unless it's so awful in pink or purple. I hate to use examples for us to relate to. I've seen architectural review committees in other cities that get down into the dirt with this, and that's not our mission. Our mission is just to have a good view of the applicant. If they don't give adequate information, sometimes they'll either we'll have to table it to the next meeting, or they'll face us rejecting it. If they reject it, I believe they can't come back for 6 months to propose again. So very important. Right now, the Architecture Review Committee is also responsible for tree preservation, and I am this vegetation. I would like for y'all to have the time to read it and approve it. Not approve it, but read it and try and understand it as best you can. David Kilgore and I have made some recommendations. This is the actual Castle Hills vegetation and tree ordinance. And yes, did you want to ask?
Real quick, Chairman, can you open up 5.2 and then be able to discuss
Okay.
the vegetation ordinance and the background so far to date? Thank you.
Okay, I want to open up 5.2 for discussion and possible action on tree-related ordinances and discussions concerning possible revisions. Time is 7:21. All right.
Thank you.
I'm terrible at parliamentation discipline. I usually have Moretta, who's one of our committee members, that's very educated on correcting me when I don't do things parliamentary correctly. But anyway, what I'm saying is that we are, as a committee, are going to consider doing a complete modification to the existing vegetation and tree preservation ordinance. The way the way the ordinance sits today, it's very broad, and the Architecture Review Committee has been I guess tasked with having to approve tree preservation and tree removal on sites. And our present ordinance is very broad. And I've been bothered by the fact that it's so broad that they're putting us in a position of having to make a judgment call on what citizens our residents are asking for. And they've also if there's a driveway and they're putting in a new driveway in a specific area where there's some trees, they've come to our committee and asked for approval of removing 2 trees when there may be 50 trees on the site. And it's a waste of their time and it's a waste of our time. And so I wanted our tree ordinance, my opinion, that the tree ordinance should be very disciplined, very regimented, where if we define specifically the trees that would qualify as protectable trees, there'll be a list of trees that would be considered protected trees. And I've suggested that anything 8 inches in caliper or more would be considered to be a protected tree. And the 8 inches is measured at the designated breast height. In other words, 4 feet, 4 to 4'6" above the ground level. The diameter of the tree, not the circumference, but the diameter of the tree would be measured in that way. And what we're going to request is that a tree survey be conducted on any applicant that intends to want to remove trees, usually for a new development. That applicant has to have a tree survey, and he has to have a tree log, which will give the caliper inches, that's called caliper inches, of all the trees on the site, all of them. And that would be under the qualification of the designated breast height for a caliper. And then they have to give the species of each of the trees. And I'm requesting maybe that they also have a topographic survey, because it's very important in order to preserve trees. You need to preserve those trees at grade height. So if they're coming in and putting a lot of fill on their site, it'll choke a tree off. So we need to know that tree, in order to save it, has to be at the elevation that it currently sits on. And that's very important. The other thing is we have I thought Justin was going to be here tonight. We have a tree arborist that's volunteered to be a consultant for us. And he's here to help us really know what we can and really can't do and what's feasible and what's not. And one of the things I want him to give us a list of is the undesirable trees. In other words, the undesirable trees that don't really require having to be saved, like hackberry, like Chinese tallow, like there's a list of undesirable species of trees that I think people can eliminate from having to consider as part of their tree count. And it's our intent, once we agree on this as a committee, it's our intent to then have either the arborist or the person that does a survey present a tree log, which would have a list of all the trees and their species by number and the caliper of each of those trees, and tag them on the site when they do their tree survey so they can correspond to that tree log. So if you see 12-inch live oak is number 13, you can go out to the site and find that tag. It says it's tree 13. Then they would accumulate the entire list of protectable trees, and you'd add up all the caliper inches between all the trees, and you'll have a total number of caliper inches for the cumulative of all the trees. And it'll be my recommendation, which I put in these notes, which we'll have to discuss more and approve in more detail, that 40% of all tree caliper has to be preserved. In other words, if they're going to be building a house or doing a development, it's got to be reasonable that there's some trees they're going to have to lose in order to be able to do their development. So it's my wish, and I think it's the same as the city of San Antonio, that they have to save 40 inches of 40% of the total caliper inches. So if they have 500 caliper inches in trees, 40% has to be preserved. Now, 20% of that 40%, in other words, 50% of the 40%, has to be actually, the tree has to be actually preserved. The other 20% of the 40% can be mitigated either by replanting trees in the same amount of cumulative caliper inches of the ones that are being removed. So basically you're saving 20% of the trees, and then 20% of them can either be, you certainly would be happy to let them preserve all 40%, but as some relief, we're giving them the opportunity to mitigate the 20% in which they can mitigate it by planting the equivalent in caliper inches that they've taken down. So a 12-inch tree, if they plant 3-inch new trees, then they'd have to put 4 trees for that 1 tree they're removing. That's to mitigate it with replanting trees. They also will have an option of paying a mitigation fee, and that gets very expensive because of what I'm recommending, which is similar again to the city, is they pay $100 per caliper inch of mitigation fee. So if let's say they're saving 50 inches in trees and are paying 50 mitigation fee for 50 caliper inches, that's 50 times $100 is, what is that? Is that 50,000? Now, heritage trees are trees that are 24 inches and greater. And those must be preserved. There has to be some specific hardship if someone is intent on removing a 24-inch tree. And the mitigation for a 24-inch tree is 3-to-1. It's $300 per caliper inch. So imagine the cost to mitigate it. Now, when you're getting into commercial development, sometimes those costs are not as large an amount compared to what they're having to absorb in developing their site. And what our goal was to establish a tree fund for the city of Castle Hills. So all monies that are raised as mitigation fees will go into that tree fund, and the city will use it to be able to plant trees in public areas, in parks, in walkways, and plant vegetation. It's basically suited just for the purpose of replenishing the new trees in the city, which give the city the opportunity, if they want to go into a development that's all parking lot and want to put some landscaping in it, maybe they get support from the city with some of those mitigation fees. The whole purpose of all this is making this ordinance very black and white. I don't want it to be gray. I don't want it to be broad. And if it's black and white, there's no reason that they have to present it to the Architectural Review Committee, because it's something just as black and white as building codes are. They submit this report to city staff that would be reviewing their building plans, and that will be part of the review process in trying to garner a building permit. And I'm wanting to make it very simple math, but we want to preserve trees, so it has to be done properly. We have to have the tree survey done by either a civil engineer or a professional surveyor or a tree arborist. And then we would recommend that people use an arborist to be able to do their presentation as far as doing their math and presenting the city what their preservation plan is based on the tree survey and what they had planned to remove, and give a presentation. Don't need to give a presentation. They just need to tabulate all the details, because then my recommendation is that not be a responsibility of the Architectural Review Board, because I've come to find that it's just too vague in the way it's written now. And if it's written in specific language, then I think that staff will be able to approve it, because it'll be just like any other code issue, very specific. Do you have any questions? Because this one, and it's real small print, but you'll see in I noticed when I saw it on email, I mean, when I printed it, what I had planned to print in green. By the way, this wasn't done in color, I don't think, Mr. Manager. I don't think.
Yes, sir.
I don't think you copied these in color, because we had green comments, we had red comments. I wanted to differentiate who was making the comments so we'd know, who they were coming from, just as a point of order. I think the ones you sent out were in color. If you don't mind. David Kilgore, who's one of our members, brought up, he's an attorney, and he brought up a lot of legal language, mostly, or things that seem to be kind of vague. I went in there with, I thought, green comments where I crossed out the existing ordinance with new language in it. When I looked at it, my copy today, it was blue. The comments I made were in blue and not green. Don't ask me how a computer does that. But we were going to go into more detail tonight in order to start tying some things down. But I thought it would be advantageous for y'all, the new committee members, and of course, Kevin as well, and the other committee members, to go through this and read it and identify. You'll identify the things that have been commented in either green or blue or red, and it'll define what my recommendations mostly are in creating this new revised tree preservation. Are there any questions tonight about what we are trying to accomplish as a committee? I mean, people are going to be very, very adamant about this being a beautiful landscape city. And I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of blowback when we say you have to save 40% of caliper inches. But that really, when it really comes down to it, you can put a tree ordinance that's so heavily weighted with preservation that people will be unable to build their buildings. And when you talk about buildings, you talk about patios, you talk about pools, you talk about driveways. There's so many things that go into a development that you shouldn't have to develop your site to the need of the trees. You need to be able to have some latitude. And right now, the code just says save trees, and these are the kind of trees you save. And the Architecture Review Committee has to approve what trees you want to remove. And I don't know we don't have a measuring stick for how we're approving them. And the reason I keep facing you, because my microphone's on this side and I want everybody to hear it. I'm not trying to neglect you, Jason. But do you kind of see my rationale in what we're trying to accomplish? We really want our committee to have stature, and when we make our presentation to City Council, gosh, I think I may have to do that. It's been a while because most of our meetings have been this discussion of the tree ordinance. But if we make if the Architecture Review Committee has approved, like we did tonight, he'll make presentation to City Council on I think the next Tuesday night after this, and City Council has to approve it after we have, but they base their approval usually on the recommendations of our committee. So it's an important responsibility for us. And I want to provide professionalism with our committee. I don't want to start asking them what their landscape design is in the way of what kind of flowers and things like that they're planning, because we're not passing judgment on their design as much as we are on standards that Castle Hills is trying to abide by. And I don't know if Nora or Brenda or the city manager has given you the guidelines. I think it may be, Lewis, isn't the guidelines for the purview of the Architecture Review Committee in the city ordinance? Thank you. I'm sorry to subject you to that. Yeah, I do want a copy because I want to know why my green notes became blue when we got them. Maybe your ink was different or something. I don't know. Louis, is there a place in the city ordinance that defines the role of the Architecture Review Committee?
Yes, sir. In broad terms, it does discuss the appointment of members in a little bit more in the weeds detail. That was rewritten and detailed about 4 years ago. But in broad terms, the answer to your question is yes.
We have like a checklist, but they have to submit their floor plan, they have to submit a site plan, they have to submit their elevations, their color boards, and do you know what section that's in offhand? You don't, do you?
That's not a problem.
Okay,
30 seconds.
okay. Why don't you look through that and it'll give you a better understanding. I want y'all to feel comfortable, and I definitely want you to participate and speak up whenever we have business as a committee. I don't want to, take center stage and take over. I really want our committee members to speak freely and give their opinions. I've just gone to a lot of work in trying to recommend adjustments to our tree preservation ordinance. I think it's very, very important. I don't want us to be responsible for arbitrary judgment. That's not fair to the citizens. What do you have?
Chapter 8. Starting at 2.23.
Chapter 8,
Correct.
2.23.
That discusses membership, and section 8.26 is the one that goes into purpose, and it's literally one paragraph. Very
Okay.
broad terms.
And do they get that by going to the website and
Yes,
going to ordinance?
correct.
City-
cityofcastlehills.com. Type in code of ordinances in your search window. Your first link will take you to an exterior link where our code is codified in the Muni code vendor. And that's a searchable file. You just simply put down your first, you can literally put down architectural, you can even go ARC and ARCH, and it'll come right up at Division 2, I believe it is, of Chapter 8.
In chapter 8. I think it'd be helpful if, when y'all find that in the ordinance, that you print those pages referring to the Architecture Review Committee and have them at the meetings, so we don't go into the woods on stuff that we really aren't tasked to do. It's very quiet tonight. I'm not hearing much from the committee. I don't think I'm that eloquent. Are you just wanting to absorb these comments? Did you want to say something, man?
Oh, no, I was gonna, sorry, Chairman, I was going to suggest if you wanted to let the new members digest this, and obviously we will have another meeting with this item on October 5th. Same styled agenda for discussion and possible action.
Okay,
And then I think that maybe by then Ms. Scott and Mr. Kilgore will be back by then too.
well, and if you're not called upon that night to as a voter, it'd be good to come just to witness the meetings and see how they're enacted. And I do agree that y'all need to really absorb this, because I don't want you to feel awkward in any way. I want you to feel very comfortable. And so if you've had a chance to review it, did you have something to comment on? Why don't you do that?
I was gonna make a motion to postpone discussion on the 5.2, the mitigation of the tree ordinance until let the new members to look it over and discuss it next meeting.
Second,
Seconded.
all in favor? Okay, that's great. If there's no other comments, I'd like to, a motion for adjournment. Somebody else make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
How about it? Any second? Okay, all right. And all in favor? Yes. Meeting adjourned at 7:40.